Well, I didn't really give everybody much of a heads up about today, as you well know, and that's the reason being is other things going on with the email, and I didn't want to be emailing too much, and so I don't expect a big crowd. But we're going to have what I'm really going to do is I'm going to be talking about the Hope Bridge, and the Hope Bridge is all about where we are today and where we want to go and what we have to do in between that to get there. And I am going to take it from square one, and I'm going to take it all the way to the end. And it's going to be every week now. Remember the survey I sent out? People decided Tuesday morning instead of Wednesday noon, like we used to have it, which Tuesday morning sounds kind of cool. So I'll see how that goes, but I'm going to commit to every Tuesday morning, and I'm just going to walk everybody across the bridge here, and I'm going to start at the beginning today. So I have given enough time, so I'm going to get started right now. I had lots of texts, and lots of emails that said that this wasn't a great time for them, though this is where the survey said to go, and that they would all. So I posted up in Facebook so everybody can watch the recording. And so, and I, as you well know, I will slice it up and stuff, and so that will be good. Okay, okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to create a visualization, and then we're going to work through the visualization. And I really want to get this, in. I really want to get where we are first. Okay, and so I'll be talking in generality, and then I'll try to bring myself into it so that you can get an idea of what I mean by, where are we? All right. And so when I talk to women, as you all know, that I've talked to dozens of women every week. I've already talked to some this morning that I haven't met before or talked to before. And there's a series of symptoms that the hormones cause, and this series of symptoms show up. I can almost sit there and just go one after another, and they just go, how do you know how to read minds? How do you know that this is what's going on with me? And I'm going to go through that, and then I'm going to talk about that's not really where you're at. Okay, and that's where people get, they get this idea that that's them. That's how they define themselves. The first thing is always weight. Not always, but 90% of the time they want to talk about their weight. And that's because in menopause, our hormones put us into a fat storing state. And the reason why we're in a fat storing state is once you stop ovulating, you no longer make fat burning hormones. And guess what? You can't burn fat without fat burning hormones. So that's the first thing. So, most of the women are going to tell me that's where they're at. They're at this overweight thing. It's usually going to be, well, I can tell you this morning, it was 50 pounds in one, 70 pounds in another. It's usually going to range between 30 to 70 pounds is where they're usually going to talk about that. Since menopause hit, that's how much they've gained. The second thing that the condition that women talk about has to do with what I call weight loss resistance. It's the inability to lose the weight no matter what they do. They join a gym, they cut their calories, they do all this stuff, and nothing works. In fact, most of them tell me they continue to gain weight. The third thing is sleep. Sleep gets disturbed quite a bit, not just a little bit. They'll go from 7 to 8 hours down to 4 hours. I think 4 hours is probably the average sleep time that I hear when I talk to the women all week long. Then it goes down into stinking thinking, worrying. They're worrying. It's anxiety is what it is. They just worry all the time, particularly in the morning. When they wake up in the morning, they're just full of anxiety. Then they go into what I call hormonal induced depression. Hormonal induced depression is not like clinical depression where it's daily and unrelenting. Hormonal induced depression is when you have a bad day occasionally. Like the woman I just talked to, she started crying, and she says that just happens all the time. She just starts crying, and that's what I mean. It's not a daily thing. It's just an occasional, emotional low day. The next thing has to do with a loss of interest in not only sex but being social. It's actually a loss of motivation. They're just not motivated anymore for pleasure or fun. And so that's what I call the first level. In the second level, the second phase, we start seeing marked loss of energy. We start seeing a thinning of the hair. We was talking about hair, mine's thinning pretty bad. This COVID thing here has changed my hair completely because I no longer get to see my go to the hair salon that often. They come here for me, but still it's completely different. I'm not used to it yet. The other thing besides the hair thinning is they start seeing accelerated aging occur. Then what they start seeing is they'll start seeing their skin will change. Okay, their skin will change, and when that happens, it becomes crepey, it becomes dry, it becomes crinkly. The skin accelerates very quickly. The next thing they see is an intolerance to heat and cold. They just have to have the right temperature. It's thermoregulation. Really gets thrown off, and it could be for the rest of your life. That's one thing. I was talking to a lady this morning that's older than my average client, and she's had 20 years of thermoregulation problems. Meaning she's either too hot, she's too cold. It drives her crazy. The next thing is we start seeing, cold hands, cold feet. You touch your husband or somebody and they go, oh my, your hands are cold or your feet are cold. Then we start seeing you, losing some of the eyebrows. Now, as we go into the third one, the first thing we start seeing is moodiness. It's actually, I like to call it, you become irritable, aggravated, or angry about things that used to not make you irritable, aggravated, or angry. And so, moodiness. The next thing that we see is that you wake in the morning and you're in pain. You feel old. I think it's probably a better way to put it. You feel like your muscles are stiff. Your joints are in pain. And this all has to do with cortisol. And then the last thing is when you wake up in the morning, you're not alert. You're groggy, like you can't get away. Now, all those symptoms, 90% of them, most menopausal women have that I talk to. Okay, maybe if not 100% of all those symptoms, and so those are the conditions. So we're on this side of the canyon, and we're looking across the canyon, and here we are. We have all this, all these symptoms, but that's not where you are. Okay, those symptoms are conditions, and they're hormonal conditions. But really, where you are is the emotion behind it. Okay, that's where you really are. And when you start thinking about, the excess weight, the inability to sleep, the loss of energy, the loss of motivation, what's that do to your life? That's where you're at. So when you're taking your notes and you're saying, okay, well, I got all those things. I've got everything you just said, Doc. That's not what I'm after. Okay, I'm after, how's it affecting you? What's it doing to not only your health, but to your relationships, to your work, to your community? How's it affecting you in that way? Because that's where you really are. Where you really are is in that pain there, in that pain of what all this stuff is doing to you, and that's what I want you to understand, where you're really at. Where are you really? Okay. And so, I sit here and I think about myself. Okay, where am I really? Okay, I've been doing this 41 years this month. Actually, last month, 41 years I've been doing health optimization. I've had, lots of clinics. I originally chiropractic clinics, then I went into medical clinics, and then I went into virtual coaching, and it's all been. I've had lots of them. I've had tons of doctors that worked for me, and all these different things that I went through, and I sit there and I think about, okay, where am I today? Where's someone that's been doing it for 41 years? Where am I at? What's my pain? Because there's no way that I'm perfect. Okay, there's no way after 41 years that I've learned everything about my health. I've had an incredible 2020, even with the COVID stuff, and it probably has a lot to do because I like being here. I have an excuse to be a hermit in essence, My lemon water. So anyway, so all of us have to look at that pain, and I do that with myself. Every morning I sit down, as it's very early in the morning. I usually wake up at 3 or 4, but I go back to bed. I think some people don't realize that, but I get up, I'm up very early. I do my reading, my writing, my promoting, my meditation. I go back to bed to wake up with my wife. And so there's always this like hour or hour and a half where I disappear, and then when I get back up, there's a ton of texts there. The West Coast texts are coming in at that time. The East Coast texts already came in. But every morning, I want to know about what pain I'm in. I want to know where I really am. Okay. And those that have worked with me recently about, when I get into your affirmation contract and into your power word and things like that, I'm not going to get into all that, but you know what my affirmation contract is, and that is, that I am an authentic, present, courageous man. And I explain it in a huge article that I sent to all my clients about what those meant. And authentic just really means that I found that after 41 years, I'd become Doc Mack and not David. And so I am really working in 2021 to melt the wax that is gotten on my body to polish me into Doc Mack. And I talk about Sinacera means without wax, and sculptors used to put Sinacera on their statues to let them know there was no wax used on that statue, and that's where we got the word sincere. That's what I want to be. I want to be the real me. I want to be vulnerable. I want my flaws to shine. I've done a really good job for 65 years to make sure that my flaws didn't shine, and so it's very important for me to be vulnerable this year. It's something I don't think I've ever really thought about, so let alone do. Okay. The second thing is I want to be present. I gave a great story about my son, who, he can walk in a room and memorize everybody's name and know everything about everybody. And I give a story about a journalist that was trying to figure out what candidate she was going to back up. And the first one she said was the most interesting man she ever met. And so she was probably going to vote for that one or back that one. And then she met the other one, and she comes out and says, he made me feel like I was the most interesting person in the world. That is what I mean by present. I want to be curious. I want to be inquisitive. Those are things I want to do these next years. Okay. I'm jumping a little ahead so you get an idea of where my pain was. My pain was inauthenticity. My pain was not being in the now. And I'm really good about that. I meditate, I do mindfulness, I do manifestation, I do gratefulness nearly every day. And so I'm really good about that. But still, I wasn't there. Too many years on the stage as a motivational speaker, all you did was talk and not listen. And then I want to be courageous. I didn't realize how cowardly I was until I got into online business. Online businesses will make you realize that that you're not as courageous as you think you are. So anyway, those were my pain. The things that had happened over the my career and everything else had shown up to me. Those are the problems that I had. The authenticity, the not being in the now, the not being a coward. Those are things. Those were my pain was coming from. Well, being hormonally challenged is going to cause pain. It's not the weight gain. It's not the energy loss. Okay, it's not your loss of motivation. It's the pain. That's where you really are. And that's what you have to take care of. So that's step one. Get in tune with what all those conditions are causing you to be. Okay. Now let's jump on to the other side of the canyon. Okay. I just told you what I want to be. I want to be authentic. I want to be in the now, curious, inquisitive. I also want to be courageous. I want to be more assertive. Okay. Now, that's great. So you can sit there and say, okay, I want to be 145 pounds. Okay. And I want to sleep 7 hours a night. Okay. I want to have the motivation, to be intimate. I want to have the energy that I can go do all those projects that I'm putting off. Okay. But that's not, you may still have the pain. And so those things are what you see on the other side of the canyon. But what you really want to see on the other side of the canyon is an elimination of the pain that the weight, the lack of energy, the lack of sleep, the lack of motivation, that's what you want to see. So you have to really zero in. And I'm going to use myself as an example, but I'll use metaphors also. Okay, because most of the women I talk to want to get rid of their conditions, but that's not how you do it. Okay, you want to see yourself. You want to visualize yourself on the other side of the canyon, okay, without the emotion. It's the emotion. That's the B. Now, you'll see me when I do my writing, I always capitalize B and E, because when you are being, you're manifesting. So it's very important to learn that's what the law of attraction is about. That's what thoughts or things are about. Okay, success comes from being, not having. We all know all these people that have fame and fortune, and they're not happy. We read about them every day. I mean, we had suicides of famous celebrities this last year. Right? They had everything. They had the fame. They had the fortune. But the having doesn't make you happy. Being makes you happy. So you have to learn, you have to know who you want to be. You don't necessarily want to know what you want to get rid of, okay? The non-having, for example, the weight. You want to know what that makes you feel like inside. What does a woman feel like at 135 pounds, size 4 dress or whatever it might be? What do you feel like? That's what you want to be. And the only way, and not the only way, but the way that you're going to achieve your success is to have this beautiful, beautiful picture of who you're going to be in your head. Okay? And by visualizing this person, this desire, that's what I mean when I'm always talking about being. Okay? It's not the weight. It's not the energy level. It's that core feeling that defines who you are. Because the weight doesn't define who you are. It's not the weight. Okay? It's not the sleep that defines who you are. It's the emotion. You hear me talk all the time about how what I call the hope circle of life, or used to be called the MAC circle of life, where your internal chemistry, your hormones, try to get yourself back to when you were, still having menstrual cycles. Some of you may still, but you would have PMS. Okay. And when you had those, that was your internal chemistry. What did it do to your thinking? What happened when your hormones shifted once a month? What did it do to your thoughts? Okay. That's what I'm talking about. Well, nowadays, that might be permanent. Your hormones have shifted, and now you have stinking thinking. You have these thoughts that say you're unworthy, that you're not beautiful, that that you just want to be isolated. You have these thoughts, and these thoughts will control your feelings. And if you remember, when you had PMS or you had hormonal issues, the feeling you had wasn't good. I raised 3 daughters, all right, and I know when they had these hormonal times, they weren't a lot of fun to be around. I'm sorry, they weren't. They were grumpy. They were emotional. They were sick. For example, my son's girlfriend had to stay home from work the last 3 days because of her menstrual cycle. The cramps were so bad. She couldn't even go to work. So, it doesn't make you a happy camper when your hormones become out of whack. And so your thoughts are going to be, and your feelings are going to be skewed. And so when your feelings are skewed, your actions are going to be. I give a story all the time about when I was a young man that I had a glucose tolerance test, which is, you fast for like 24 hours, and for 6 hours they stick glucose down your throat, and then they test your blood like every half an hour for like 6 hours. They used to do it that way back in the old days. And diabetes runs rampant on both sides of my family, both my mom's side and my dad's side. Both my mom and dad were diabetic. My mom still is a diabetic, she's still around. And they had, I think one had 9 siblings, the other one had 10 siblings, and they all had diabetes. So they wanted to check me when I was very young. But when I came out of that blood test, I got in the car, my girlfriend picked me up. I took her head off. All she took off of work to come pick me up. And I'm like, I'm a wild man. That's internal chemistry. That's internal chemistry affecting your thoughts, which are affecting your feelings, which control your actions. And your actions control your results. She didn't break up with me, but I'm sure she still remembers it after all these years. So what I'm trying to get you to do is to understand that on the other side of the bridge, the be that you want to be, okay, has to do with your thoughts, because that's where your emotions are. So I want you to think about it. I want you to first think about, where are you emotionally because of what the internal chemistry has done to you? Where are you? You could be sad. You could be depressed. You could be feeling you're unworthy. You could feel isolated. That's where you're at. Okay? On the other side, what's that going to feel like? What's that? Full of self-confidence. One thing I see the most when a woman, and you all see my pre and post pictures, there's major transformations, and I've got hundreds now. And when you see that transformation, I always get hold of them and I talk to them. Now I'm doing video interviews. That way, it's more than just my memory. Is the one thing I like about what I see is that change in the self-confidence to the point where they feel like they can flaunt. I know it's a bit vain, but it's okay to feel that way. To feel like if I get the same feeling when I have my wife on my arm. We walk into a room and we're all dressed up. I feel so proud. I feel so, it's a warmness. It's a feeling of confidence. It's a feeling of I've arrived. It's a feeling that's just nice. You see what I'm saying? There's other feelings too, but that's the one I always see. Like there's like the reason why I get pre and post pictures has a lot to do with they post them on their Facebooks or their Instagrams, and they put their post pictures in this new outfit. You know, they're feeling like you know that they're awesome. That's a great feeling. That's what you want to feel like. You want to feel that emotion of being awesome. Like my biggest problem with my clients is that many of them don't have a pre-picture because they avoided the camera. They don't have a pre-picture. I have one right now. I wish I had a pre-picture. She's lost 77 pounds. Okay, she looks amazing, right? But she's still looking for a pre-picture because she avoided the camera so much. Okay, so that's what you do. Okay, all right, look at that. So anyway, if you have any questions, Zoom just gave me a gift. They said I can talk as long as I want today. That's funny. So any questions at all? I never have any questions. It's kind of weird that I rarely have questions on this. And that's another thing that another thing is one of the things I have found when I'm dealing with these feelings is that isolation. Meaning that, for example, I have several Facebook groups, and people have a really hard time when they're in the pre-feeling of getting in there and talking, engaging about their feelings, the way they feel, the way they look. Okay. And so it's always nice when I see, like I posted one this week, a lady who posted on her Facebook 3 pictures of herself, and she tagged me. And so that's where I actually got that photograph from her timeline. Okay. And it was a complete transformation. I mean, it's an amazing type of transformation. But you see, that's the feeling I'm talking about. That feeling of not of hiding to going to, here I am, world. This is the real me. This is who I desire to be. So when you're looking at the other side of the canyon, that's what I want you to think about. I want to think about that feeling, because it's not what the scale says. All right. It's not how many hours you slept. Those are going to help. But what's going to motivate you to cross the bridge from one side to the other side is that feeling. That feeling, that being, that feeling is what I want you to feel when you do your visualization. What's it going to feel like to be who I desire to be, body-wise, mind-wise, everything? All of them are connected. Everything. Your body is connected to your relationships, which are connected to your career, which are connected to your community, which is connected to your church. You know, they always talk about, rising tide raises all ships. That's the same thing that happens. Okay. And so I could be talking completely about, community work, your social club, and it's all really the same thing. It's that feeling. So get into how you're feeling now and find out what you want to feel like. And we're going to build the bridge to get you there. Week by week. I'm going to be here every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I'm going to start building the bridge, but I need to know, you need to know where you're really at and where you really want to go before you can really build the bridge efficiently. Okay. So if there's no questions, we're going to end this meeting. I'm going to put it up in the Facebook group. And amazingly, in the past, I'll have hundreds of views that I have. You see, this is another example. Another example. There's something about being hormonally challenged that keeps us kind of hidden, that keeps us kind of in the background. We just have a hard time. But soon you'll see how many views I get of this will be literally more than 100. Okay, but we have 3 people here today. That's part of it. That's part of the feeling I'm talking about. That feeling of where you're at, the hiding part. Well, I want to bring you over here where you're coming out. As soon as those people that have had success know that I'm doing this, I'm going to have them here. And because it's funny, because in the past, they seem to show up more than those that are over on the wrong side of the canyon. It's not the wrong side of the canyon, but the side of the canyon we're at. But I also want to make sure that I bring people in that are on the other side of the canyon, so you can participate with them too. So no questions. I'll make sure to have a different album next time. I think I've used that one the most. I'm a Beatle nut. If you saw, I have Beatles stuff everywhere. Just Beatles. It's crazy. So God bless you. I'll post this, and I will be back next Tuesday, 9 o'clock.
Bye, Doc. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.